And today our theme is kind of an ask anything, and we'll go from there. It's been a really busy couple of months for us at the Stronger Memory team. So we have been busy. We presented at the Virginia Governors Conference on Aging, and then we had an exhibit booth and a poster at the National Council on Aging conference. Those went really well. And we've been partnering with resilient health communities to launch Stronger Memory in Trinidad, Tobago, and across the Caribbean. So Teresa, I think shared, did you share a little bit of that at the beginning while I was on my technical difficulties? Do you have any other mission moments to share?
Sure. I was just saying how wonderful it was we were talking about it's a beautiful day, and I said it must be always a beautiful day in the Caribbean. But yes, I got to take part in two phenomenal events with the Caribbean. One was the graduation of Trinidad and Tobagoans who did their first 12 weeks of Stronger Memory virtually. There were over 120 people tuning in on Tuesday nights for 12 weeks. And so over 120 people graduated, and Trinidad and Tobago, the South Caribbean Conference there had a very special graduation ceremony where they scrolled the graduation certificates across the screen. They played the graduation march. We had an opening speaker. We had testimonials, and this was all compliments of Rhonda Baird, who just started her own nonprofit, who has a special connection to Trinidad and Tobago. She was, of course, born in Trinidad, but has a wonderful network there, and that's what got that going. And then through Rhonda's connections, also, yesterday afternoon, we met with representatives from health ministries from the 10 territories in the Caribbean. So we're talking lots of islands and countries, and these were leaders of their individual country health ministries who will be rolling Stronger Memory out in each of their areas. So very exciting stuff. And I'm also so excited that Regina is on and introduced herself, because on this call, we are adding people from Trinidad and Tobago as well as Canada. So we're going outside of our norm to involve the entire globe, and it's really exciting. Yeah.
The way
Thank
it's going, you guys might have to make a list of the countries that aren't doing Stronger Memory.
you.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
something. I thought you were going to say we need to do a world tour, Diane, and
Oh,
our
yes.
small group would be happy to do that. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah, Regina, did I see your hand up?
Yes, so thank you for the space here. I just wanted to add something that is, I think I found it very interesting. When I mentioned to one of the program managers there at the New Market Senior Center about this program, so he selected what the small venues at the center, which only holds up to 13 people. Right, he has to move to a bigger venue within the facility,
Wow.
and now we are at 30 attendees, and I understand that we actually more people were wanting to register, but there was actually at one point they said, okay, 30 people was enough. So
Right.
this is actually the awareness, right? The
Wow.
interest, for this particular program. So I'm very excited, and thank you so much to all you guys for this incredible curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. That's exciting. That's really exciting. And it kind of brings me, so to kick off our Ask Anything session this month, I have a question for those of you, Rhonda especially, but for those of you, Regina, sounds like you might be in a similar boat. We talk a lot about the dynamic when you have a small group, but for those of you that do have really large groups, how have you how do you, is there anything different you do to run those sessions? I'll admit we've been afraid to run our internal groups to make them too big, because we don't want to lose that small group feel. But I think there's a different benefit when you have a big group of people together. They kind of build that momentum. So any tips on kind of how you run your group when there are, 30 people or more than, maybe not everybody gets to talk and discuss every time, but what works? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could share a little bit how I actually organize my programs in general too. So, number one, I provide the plan or program outline. So to the in this case for New Market Senior Center, to the program coordinators. So just to let them know and acknowledging the whole entire the program, what it's all about and everything. And then what I do, I provide also posters too, so they could actually bring awareness to their community and also to the not only in the center, particular center, but also in the community, in this case, the town of New Market as well. So this is how my approach to promote and to reach out that and people actually they're now more conscious that they don't have to have a problem to actually for
Mhm.
prevention, right?
Yeah.
They're actually current now recognizing that aging with aptitude, like aging with, the willingness to do something different, right? And to get more tools. So there is here in the community is actually a great interest to actually not to get to a point where it's needed. No, how could I prevent? Yeah. So I hope
That's
I
great.
answered to your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Regina. Rhonda, I saw you come on camera too. Do you have anything to add?
I think you hit on one of the major concerns I have about larger groups. And so we had a bit of a challenge because how do you ensure the quieter persons who take longer to speak get to
Yeah.
speak? So it was a balance between, do we contain the size of the class or do we just let everybody join? Because the idea of online was to expose Trinidad to the full 12 weeks, and then they are now going to have in-person regional groups. So
Mm-hmm.
we needed to be able to carry as many as we could. And I could tell the difference because there were some personalities that were really, the minute you opened the opportunity for input, they were the first ones to speak. And that was a little bit of a challenge. But I think it worked in the end because at least for the Trinidad, so much of it was a group of people who were learning, knowing that they were going to be asked to then go to share it in person in their regions. One of the principal reasons for resilient health communities' existence is the social connection.
Yeah.
And online's good, but in person's even better. This morning I was shocked. I'm busy sharing about the in-person group that starts in here in Silver Spring on the 24th, thinking there was still space and opportunity. Well, that class is full.
Wow.
So I don't know what we do because we don't have any other space to house and have a class over the summer. But I prefer, I've seen in person, and I think it's a secret sauce to connecting the seniors and having them, as you saw on the first and the launch, they were the ones doing the mini Stronger Memories sessions, not us. They
Yeah.
are excited and engaged. And I think that's because they were maybe about 24, 25 persons in that session last year. They got to know each other, and they've told me that. They now go out to lunch, spend time together, stay in touch with each
Wow.
other, even when they don't have a session. So I love the smaller, no more than maybe 30 persons, but without more, without finding the space and the persons to coordinate sessions, I think we're gonna probably have to continue carrying larger groups online for a while.
Yeah. I like that idea, though. Maybe there's a larger group, but then people in the same area can link up together for something they're interested in. I see Annie, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have had large in-person sessions and it doesn't translate as well because you, like Rhonda was saying, you get those who are extrovert, want to talk, and they really do dominate the conversation. And the whole point is that social engagement. And so we've been playing around with ideas of meeting as a group for kind of that little brain health tip part of the class, and then
Yeah.
splitting up into little groups of maybe 5 or 6, and having a topic that they can talk about. We don't police those conversations, if you will, saying you have to talk about this, but just kind of like giving them a conversation starter. We'll usually assign one individual in the group to say, come prepared to be the conversation starter. That kind of helps those who are more of that passive personality type, and they can plan what they want to say. So we'll give them the opportunity to start the conversation. Usually we tell them to use one of those writing prompts to share what they wrote as the conversation starter. And then, just kind of saying, okay, now that we've done this as a group, we don't have them do the math and the writing together. We have them do that at home. So when we gather, it's purely for the social conversation part.
Yeah.
So that's one way we've done it, is we've just said, okay, and we try to mix up the groups. Usually about week 5, they've got their group that they like to talk with, and we figure that's fine because we want them to make those social connections. And so we're not going to try to say everybody has to know everybody and be besties with everybody. But that might be something that's helpful if you have the space to say, okay, and it doesn't have to be like too bad. Sometimes we've had to say, okay, it's getting a little loud. We need to just kind of keep it down. But for the most part, that's been something that has helped in our larger groups.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And even on Zoom and Teams, Microsoft Teams, other online platforms, you can do it too. Sometimes not as easily, but yeah, you can do breakout rooms there too. So that's a really neat idea. Diane, I see your hand up.
Our group, in the beginning, we're on the 3rd group, basically, or 4th group when you consider some new people added into the group that we already had. So I'm not sure how to classify it anymore, and we've been ongoing. But one of the things that came out was, and I can relate to what Rhonda said, and Annie too, you do have those that are a little bit more verbal and spontaneous in speaking out. But one of the ways that people had noted how easy they were with each other and those connections were the ones that were quiet started to be the ones that opened up the conversation. And to have somebody be very, very quiet and not say anything for X amount of meetings, to be the one to start the ball rolling, that really is cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's a really great point. I love that.
Yeah, that goes along with what we hear from a lot of people, that over time it becomes such a safe space
Mm-hmm.
that people who normally, really don't engage that much in public do feel comfortable enough. And so I just think then we're going beyond just the 3 exercises. We're combating social isolation, but also, building confidence and resilience. So I just think it's wonderful when that happens.
When you live in a community where there are X amount of people, but a certain group are out there doing one thing or another, and others are more introverted or doing things in a smaller scale, uh, the issue of confidentiality comes out there.
Mhm.
And having the meetings and really stressing periodically, what goes on around the table stays in the table kind of thing. But having them also parrot those words back and feeling comfortable enough to share something that really has them concerned. Like I said, that's very good. And you can see the connections being made that are going to be ongoing. The fact that we've been going on since 22 is
Yeah.
testament to itself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Great point. Yes, Susan.
I was going to say that I have in certain safe situations called on people in the group by going around my screen on Zoom. So they know when they're coming, when I'm going to get to them, and they know that it's a safe question that people have, given answers. And I found that that sort of begins to open up some of the people who don't really respond so much. So knowing, the order, the safety, and that the question isn't something that's threatening. I think that is another way to do that. And that has worked fine in the Zoom group because they see the whole screen, they see who's next, and they know they're next. So I would, say that has worked for me.
This is Angela Beckman, and I'd like to echo that. We did our first program with people in healthcare, and we had 8 in the group, and we would go round in an order so people did know when their turn was coming up. The other exciting thing for us was when we finished the 12 weeks, none of them wanted to stop. They begged us. They said, "Oh, please don't stop. Can we go on?" So we are actually going to start up with them again over the summer. But the confidence that they gain by seeing the same people, we were doing it 3 times a week. Just that was the major benefit in some respects, was the social interaction and the reduction in stress, and also a reduction in loneliness.
Yeah, that brings up a good point too about the more time people spend together, the more they connect and maybe trust and feel willing to share.
I was thinking in terms of May's issue right now with the daycares closing down.
Yeah.
And going to the home. Stronger memory is sort of evolved or organically, I think is the way people say, how it's just sort of spread out. In a way, going to the homes, I guess, depending on who the people are in the home, you might have 15 homes with 15 facilitators, maybe helping out to each of the individual people that would ordinarily be in daycare. And then word of mouth just goes so much. So who knows how this is going to expand, but you've done good, May, with the others. It sounds like how much they enjoy things. Not a doubt in the mind that it's going to proceed to the others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. May.
Yeah, thanks so much, Diane. Yeah, over the last couple months, one of the things I've been doing is when I've been going into my adult family homes is I've been engaging the adult family homeowner as well. I pull them in, I show them the stickers. I mean, now it's a thing. My autistic son makes little packets of stickers for everybody. He absolutely loves to do it. And so that's awesome too. And I engage the adult family homeowners, and I've literally been printing now extra packets so that they have one as well. And with the adult family homeowners, the ones who have the people come around the table, the residents eat at the table for dinner, whatever, they've been doing a couple of those conversation starters, one or maybe more per meal. So I was given a hard time, like it was in May, I didn't include an extra page of conversation starters. And an adult family homeowner was a bit miffed at me and said, "I had to come up with my own, I want you to know." But it's cool, I mean, I'm more worried about dealing with the grief work of these folks losing this. The grief work has already set in, it's already started, and it's pretty sad, it's upsetting, it's scary. We do have another senior program they could go to, but compared to where most of them are located and where the location of this is with the the disabled bus service, it's called DART out here. It will probably they will probably have to start around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning in the bus just to get there for a 9 o'clock start time. And I've talked to a guardian just yesterday who said, I'm not putting them through that. I know that the program is vital to them. I know it's important to them, but I don't think it'd be worth it for them to lose their bus privileges because they're mad about being on the bus. And I get her proactive stance on it. And she's like, is there any way you can facilitate and do stronger memory with them when you see them once a month? And I'm like, of course I can. And here, come to find out, in the same adult family home, there are 2 clients from this adult day health, no, 3 clients from this adult day health program that live in the same adult family home. And then she has 1 more client. And so she gave me the information for the other client. So I gave it to my boss, who is going to the state and pleading the case. Could we please have this person on board too? Because if I have 4 people in the same adult family home, I could do the individual appointments, but then I can do a stronger memory session, with their packets. One more thing I just want to add is that at the end of April, I was approached by one of my clients at a meeting, and she said, at our counter, and she said, we've been talking amongst ourselves. Now, mind you, I have 15 of them that do the stronger memory, and they're in the adult day health program. She says to me, we've been talking amongst ourselves, and we like it when you include the fables and the fairy tales. I'm like, really? She says, yeah, we love it, like when you get the Hans Christensen or the Brothers Grimm, because they remind us of when we were kids. They remind us of when we read them to our kids and our grandkids, And she says, and by the way, the only virtue you haven't covered yet is compassion. So you need to get on that. So I started Googling, which I do. I Googled fairy tales with compassion and came up with finding the Brother Grimm's, the Elves and the Shoemaker. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware, there's actually 3 stories. And so I found them and I included them. And then I found a Japanese fable of the sagacious monkey and the boar, which I was shocked how many of my clients absolutely loved that story. And so it's just a very cool thing that come to find out how much that they do pay attention, how much they do read, how much they interact with each other and say, hey, what'd you think of that story? Like Sylvia Plath this last month, so it was super cool. Her kindness poem was a very cool one for this month. So that's it, guys. Sorry.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing, May.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know, it's not just stronger memory related, but I know May had kind of asked in the introduction, and we are doing an Ask Anything today. But one of the things May had asked was if anybody has ideas for how to care for her seniors who are going through this process of no longer going to be able to come to the day center, but still needing support. So I don't know if anyone has ideas there.
There's a program. I can't remember the name. I think it's Brain Executive Initiative or something like that. I could look it up.
Brain
But it's
Exercise Initiative.
yes, they are college students who work with seniors almost one-on-one. And they are all over the country. I don't know how active they are right now, but that could be an option. And if not that specific entity, we're volunteers. We're all volunteers. And what has helped us a lot is having younger persons who bring a different energy and who have been able to connect with the seniors. So that could be an option. Here in Maryland, seniors have 75 hours of community service as a requirement for graduation. And so we've used that to encourage and to attract high schoolers who have been able to work with us and the seniors. So maybe that's also an option.
Yeah, I was also going to mention high schoolers and that senior requirement. And also that colleges, people are looking in college to have different kinds of experiences. And perhaps through a local college, somebody just might become really interested in this population. So it's really important, I think, to reach out to high schools and colleges that have, certainly most schools now have a certain number of hours you have to do in high school of community service. And then, you know, college students who are interested in psychology, interested in sociology, you know, just some of those subjects that, you know, social work programs. So some of those people are already naturally interested. So recruiting some of them might be helpful too.
Here in Virginia, there's a young girl, Isabella Solano, who started a program called Heralink. And the name comes from Scandinavian, I think it was Danish, as she said, Hera means elder. And it's specifically connecting older people with high school students for that community service thing. And when she started out, she identified long-term care facilities, specifically understanding, knowing that some family members get to a point where they don't come in as frequently, and aides can only interact to a certain degree doing the things that they needed to do. Well, long and short, as of a few weeks ago, she has 800 volunteers, high school students going to different places. And in our community, they come to help some of the people identify what their phones can do. You know, be it the icons or text messages, how to, you know, get them in a different font, all this sort of stuff. So it's a good thing. I myself, I connect frequently with another person, Allegra Jaffe. We're both part of the Dementia Friendly Fairfax Task Force workforce. And we did a presentation on dementia friendly a few weeks ago, actually probably about a month ago. And, you know, we're friends to each other, but I didn't realize it or didn't have it to the forefront of my brain. One of the people had come up to Allegra afterwards and said, you know, you guys are a testament about the benefit of doing things intergenerationally. And I said, yeah, because I'm sort of 43 years older than Allegra. So between the two of us, you know, and in a way that points out a different thing, how and what Isabella has said. Some of the people who have come to the nursing homes, they were initially going to do it X amount of times a month, but there's a few people that have gotten to the point where they go visit every weekend. So good things come out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we can definitely try to connect you with BEI. We've been connected with them for a while because they were inspired by a lot of the same research that Rob was inspired by when creating Stronger Memory. So yeah, we can definitely see. I know they do have connections at colleges all across the country. I'm not sure which I know the organization is active. I don't know which chapters are super active, but I also know they've been able to do some virtual volunteering as well. So that could be an option, just to add that intergenerational component in. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that's really cool about your writing prompts, and depending on the age spread of the people that you have in your group, it's very interesting. For example, the question about who was the first president that you remember really understanding what they're saying and leading, and going back to Truman and Eisenhower and everything. And then they had other parts to them, Eisenhower with the war and everything. It becomes a history lesson. And these days, hearing it from people who experienced it makes more of an impact too on the younger generation. Us too, for that matter.
Yeah. Well, do we have any other questions? We've got time. We've had some great discussions already, but we still have enough time if anybody else has a question, whether it's something you have or your participants. I saw Angela, were you?
I do have a question, actually. when I'm interested in how often a group gets together. Obviously, with our healthcare people, we were all getting together 3 times a week. But if the participants are doing it on their own, how often, particularly at the beginning, would you recommend that we all get together?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do it weekly here at Goodwin Living, and that's kind of what we recommend. But I open that up to the group, to other facilitators to share what works for your individuals.
Definitely comes into play. Once a week is what we do. And depending, ironically, on the weather and how good the calisthenics are for people to get out of bed in the morning when they have a lot of arthritis or something, that might determine whether they're able to get over to the clubhouse kind of thing. But for any given week, there are some people that are there every single week, and there are others who come a little bit less frequently, but it's not because they don't want to, but we're finding more and more that it seems like doctor's appointments are always on Wednesdays when we have our meeting. And as many of you might find out or know already, these days you don't dare cancel doctor's appointments because you don't know when you're going to get one again for and the timeliness of it. So, but weekly seems to work. And I find and I'm hearing that sometimes if somebody brings up something in conversation and one of the other people aren't there because of these appointments, they talk off away. So connections made afterwards.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
I was just going to say, I think that one of the things we have to be aware of is that so much funding for so many situations is going to disappear. And, there has to be, some kind of way of making substitutions, of finding other ways of doing things. And in many ways, I guess Zoom offers an opportunity, except for a clientele that cannot get onto Zoom by themselves. So, but it seems to me like everywhere there are new cuts heading for all services.
Yeah, that's a good point. It makes me think about, because I've actually been working with Isabella from Haralink, who Diane mentioned earlier, on streamlining a stronger memory training for some of her volunteers. So makes me wonder, yeah, if there's a way to do that to increase volunteers for stronger memory that could work virtually with partner organizations like all of you. But you bring up a really good point, Susan, about the individuals not being able to get on Zoom. And I know one thing that Michelle, I think, is actually an expert at is calling people on the phone and walking them through step by step. So maybe that's an area to recruit volunteers in too. It's not just people to lead the program, but maybe it's using some of these student volunteers through BEI, through Haralink, through others, to just call someone and one-on-one over the phone teach them how to access services that might be provided in another way.
Also handouts. I had my
Yes.
appendix out very suddenly, and I was in Beth, not recently, 9 years ago, at Beth Israel. And Donna Karen had funded a floor in the hospital to provide different kinds of services. So everybody had to have their name on this board that was opposite your bed, but they didn't even have enough room for the cleaners. So the cleaners gave out cards. If you felt like something spilled in your room, you could call them. But the best thing that they did was they gave a handout. And on that handout, they told you what to expect with having had your appendix out, what to do with medicine. And then they had, frequently asked questions that they had developed from the experience with patients. They had a contemplative counselor, they had yoga in bed, and, all kinds of stuff. But the sheets that they gave out that I took home was so reassuring, because several times the questions that I wanted were on that sheet and I didn't have to go further. So I think sometimes handouts can really be the way to go, showing someone how to get onto Zoom, what might happen that could go wrong, because we all know things can go wrong, and you know, what to do in those situations. And you know, I just think that that could be helpful too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a really good point.
Yes, Susan, I agree. Also, Michelle does something before our virtual Stronger Memory sessions, usually anywhere from 2 to 3 hours before a scheduled session is going to start that day. Michelle sends out a reminder email. And what we have found is many times this is how we get to meet other family members or caregivers within the home, because they then put it on their schedule. And if they want us to send the reminder to someone else in the home, we're happy to do that as well. But that's what we find a lot of times right before Stronger Memory is starting. When I'm logging in, there is someone in the home setting it up for the person, particularly those who may be a little further along in their dementia journey and need that extra. But it's been kind of fun because we know the people now. We get to see them. We always thank them for taking the time to set things up. And then sometimes, you know how it is, there's an update to Zoom and it's not working. So it's really great because Michelle is there also, to help walk people through, or we can kind of share our screen at the same time and say, this is what we see that's new. But I found that has been really helpful, and not everyone does have that available, but for those who do have someone who is quasi tech savvy within the home setting, kind of getting them to be helpful and accountable as well for the setup piece really goes far. We've also found that you can sometimes see that person in the background and you can tell they're getting engaged somewhat in the conversation. And it really is wonderful to see often a son or a daughter or a spouse suddenly smile because their loved one started talking during Stronger Memory. And that might be out of character for them most of the day, but when they're with that group, they start participating. So that's just one other way. But I love the idea of the handout too, with the frequently asked questions and the directions and maybe some pictures of screenshots, because of course every 6 months they just decide to change the layout. And it freaks all of us out. I'm sure if we're, someone who's not using their computer every single day, it must be completely bewildering. So yeah, I love the idea too of the handout. And yes, if you can engage volunteers to be helping with that setup as well, that's just fantastic.
During the course of the time that we've had together, at one session or another, we've either talked about the importance of diet, the importance of, the benefits of one food over another, the anti-inflammatory kinds of foods, and hydration and sleep and all that. At this morning session, actually, somebody brought up, okay, what do people hear about with the diet? And you always hear about the Mediterranean diet. You do hear about DASH and some of these others. Do you guys have a reference point where all of those main things are addressed all in one place? The diet, the sleep, the hydration, exercise, anything that you can think of off the top of your head, one place shopping, so to speak?
That's a great question. I don't know about one place shopping, but we do have some go-to resources. And I think we've been trying to brainstorm how could we make a one place shop or hub or shareable. We've tried the Facebook group. That's not working very well. I mean, it's working, but it doesn't seem like a ton of people. That's not the easiest way to engage. So that's something, yeah, we're working on how could we get a Google Drive or a share. Our company doesn't use Google, we use Microsoft. So is there a way we can host it, or do we need to get a separate thing to be able to push out content? But I'm curious if any other facilitators, what resources you're using, if you've found kind of a one-stop shop for stuff like that.
Not
We're
really.
a one stop. I mean, that's been, as you can see from some of the things I sent you, they come from everywhere. And
Mhm.
I really do read a lot and look a lot, but really to have something, they may say two things in one article and one thing in another article, but to really get a good load of information about those kinds of things, you just really have to do them individually. And certainly Google is a good place to start, and just to do individual ones at a time and maybe put something together yourself, because I've put a couple of I put articles out, but I wouldn't say that I ever put out an article that covered everything. So
Well, the way things are, what is appropriate one time, all of a sudden is not in another time. So I could understand where they are, things change. So
I
diet,
think
sleep,
the diet is the easiest, the DASH, the Mediterranean, to find information about those. And now there's a brain diet too,
The mind. Yep, the
mind
mind,
diet.
right? Yep,
So I
exactly.
mean, I think that's one of the easiest. The sleep is very complicated because there are so many different, you should get 12 hours, you need to have deep sleep, but again, the only way to track that kind of stuff is like with a watch, an Apple Watch, or, a Fitbit or something like that. But even then, that changes. Sometimes, just regular sleep is good, and other times you need to have certain number of minutes in deep sleep and certain numbers of minutes, in some other form of sleep. So sleep, I think, is one of the most complicated ones to really, get a clear picture on.
and people as they age, their sleep patterns are different. And you hear so many of them saying the medication that they're on, that's one of the side effects kind of thing. And on the other hand, you say for the most part, it's recognized that most people need X amount of hours to be functioning the next day without feeling that they have to go.
The
But
other Yeah, the other thing that I think is so important is water. Now, an older person just said to me, "Oh, I'm thirsty." I said, "That's great." She said, "What do you mean that's great?" I said, you're detecting that you're thirsty. Many older people don't realize that they're thirsty and they're not drinking enough. So, I probably in my 10 sessions probably mentioned water about 6 sessions, because I think it's so important. I then people say, I don't like the taste of water. I don't exactly know what it is to not like the taste of water. But anyway, but that's something, and that can affect so many things, and people don't realize that there are ways to even notice this. If you're, they just had a thing in Bottom Line Health about the color of urine, and
mhm,
it's really clear. The darker the urine, the more dehydrated you are.
right,
And,
right.
that's a simple way to just check yourself to see if you're getting enough fluids. But water, I think, is the most important.
Totally agreed. A lot of people don't realize that if you don't drink the water, your blood volume and everything, it gets affected. So you need to have a certain amount of blood volume to be able to get to all parts of the body and be
Yes.
nutritious. But so many people say, I don't drink because it's such an effort and energy to get to the bathroom. But you need to do some things to be healthy. Annie's got her hand
True.
up too.
Yes, I was going to say we've got just a couple minutes left. So, Annie, I want to make sure we get to you.
I was just going to say, as far as a resource hub, I'm not a tech savvy person, so maybe I'm just saying something that doesn't exist or can't be done. But I'm thinking, is there a space, maybe the people who manage your website, the Stronger Memory website, where once someone becomes a facilitator, can get access to like the facilitator library on your website? Then
Mhm.
you guys can keep that updated. We can just go and download. If we want to submit something, maybe we submit it to you, you guys vet it for accuracy, and then add it to the library. That might be, I was thinking maybe Dropbox, but that I use Dropbox for things and it gets complicated. People can't get access to the link and they have to get my approval.
Right.
So if Google doesn't work, Google Drive, maybe there's some way you can create kind of a membership only site on your website that we can just go to and access things there. I don't know if that's something maybe easier said than done. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about, and we go back and forth with our IT team about SharePoint because they think that we can use SharePoint that way with our licensure. And I'm not experienced. I see May nodding her head yes, so that's exciting. But I know Teresa's looked into it too, and it looks like it's maybe a little complicated because, yeah, ideally we don't want people to have to really log in other than maybe it's something that's like a password protected page where you know, once you've signed up once to get that facilitator guide, you just have the password so that you can log it in. But yeah, I know some of those things like Dropbox, you're right, you have to be granted permission and things like that. So we want to eliminate that if we can. But yeah, that's a good idea of having a hub. And then even if things do have to come through us, we could get that page updated. So we'll talk about that. That seems like it might be the best way. And I'm thinking, I know in Virginia, the dementia friendly Virginia website does something like that. If you're a champion, you get the password. So when you want to access the PowerPoint files and the links and things like that, you just know that password and you can access that page. So maybe we can do something like that.
And for me personally, a lot of the time I spend is reviewing the credibility of the information that I'm seeing.
Right.
So if I can just know that you guys are doing that, that would save me a lot of time on my end of knowing that whatever's in that library is accurate information. It's coming from credible sources. Because I get that a lot from my participants. They want to know. They're like, where is this information coming from?
Right.
Because they hear so much, you know,
Absolutely.
snake oil kind of stuff out there that they want to make sure that what we're presenting them is factual, evidence-based information. So
Yes, absolutely.
Such a great point because you're right. I mean, even if we get to that point, we'll be able to say like, this is accurate as of, June 2025. So at least you know when it was posted, and that, yes, as of that date, we had researched it. But I love like Susan saying about sleep, it's like you could go on today and look at scientific research and naps are good, naps are bad, it's all over the place. So you're right, Annie. I think knowing that someone at least has vetted something to a degree is very helpful. And what we're running into is it has to be like a terabyte storage, a huge amount of storage in whatever cloud-based solution we have. That's one reason Google Drive didn't work because it had limitations unless you kind of pay a fortune, and still people have to have a Gmail address. So yeah, looking at different options. And then of course we're a healthcare provider as well. So we have to choose something that would be protected in that case. But it's definitely we're on the same. And I love that you called it a facilitator library resource hub, Annie. That's a great name.
Yeah. Yeah,
I see an acronym in there somewhere.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we'll have to ask ChatGPT about that. Yeah. And I will just share, I know we're a little over time, but we are working diligently on those facilitator guide updates. So those are going to come with more detailed lessons. There's going to be 16 total instead of 12. They'll go through each of the exercises, there's a general introduction, And they'll go through each of the exercises, why each one is important. I think we've condensed the kind of motivation ones that were all a little short. We've put them and some additional research from George Mason into one longer, bigger, meatier lesson about motivation. And then we've added a lesson based on, popular demand from our participants on the different parts of the brain. And then the 6 pillars of brain health. So those are kind of the core lessons. And then we have, that takes you through from weeks 1 through 9. And then we're going to have a lesson that goes in depth on each pillar of brain health. So that way, participants or facilitators, you all can choose if you're doing 16 weeks, you can use all 16 lessons. But if you're only doing a 10-week session or a 12-week cohort, you can, you can pick and choose which of those 6 pillars you're going to go into more depth with. I know a lot of you have groups that are just ongoing because they want to keep coming. So then you're welcome to use all lessons. We do, for people who are kind of doing that cohort model, we have a lesson that kind of wraps things up that you can put at whatever week your official Stronger Memory groups for that cohort might be ending. So it's really about sustaining momentum. Congratulations, you've made a habit. You've gotten through, the core Stronger Memory curriculum, and next steps are, maybe you have a monthly group of, or a volunteer-led group. There's some other ways to sustain the program, or maybe it's just them continuing to partner with someone and do the exercises on their own. But those lessons, Ellie has been a huge help with piloting them and adding in resources. So they will all have kind of vetted references and resources, and some places to go from there. So that we are diligently working on, hoping to get a draft of that out probably August is maybe realistic, and might not be fully formatted yet, but I think we could get a draft version out to this group for feedback no later than our August meeting.
That sounds very good.
Yes. And we're also adding in some really simple, like a teacher's guide, teacher's manual, so that there are optional activities or like questions, additional things for facilitators to use. Ellie just put in the chat, it's hard because we're in the same office, so she doesn't have her audio on, but she just put in the chat, she's had a lot of great feedback from our Goodwin Living residents, especially those who participated in the original lessons and are now doing the new lessons. They really like them. So that's coming in the future, along with some other resources. And yeah, we will get moving on that. Last week,
Will we
yes.
meet in July and August?
We'll meet in August. I was just about to ask about July. We, because I think most of the people on the call, we always get some individuals, not every month, but there's a lot of you who do come every month. So our July meeting is July 9th. It's not right around the 4th of July. It's that following week, but I know there is a lot of travel. So I don't know if people want to raise their hand or do I don't know, do a react. Do we want to take the month of July off, or are you all still running your programs as normal? So you would find it really helpful to come together in July still. I'll be here. So I'm not on PTO. Okay, Annie says good with a July meeting.
We're good with July
Thumbs up.
too.
Okay. All right, great. Then we will continue to meet Rhonda's tentative. That's okay. We'll go ahead and still meet May. I see the thumbs up, Susan. Great. Okay. So we will meet in July, and we'll meet again in August as well. And yeah, we'll go from there.